Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I have 5 Stealthy 9.8 comics you should be buying. And by stealthy, I just mean these ones aren't like your obvious key issues, but I still think they're pretty great buys right now. The first one up here, it's Gambit #1 in a 9.8 from 1993, this one. The first solo titled Gambit comic book, pretty much. I got a good feeling about some of these kind of secondary Gambit key issues, I guess you could call them, where, you know, you pick them up for like a really good fair value right now in the 9.8, and then hopefully Gambit comes out in a bunch of X-Men movies in the MCU X-Men in the next few years looking awesome. I feel like the current prices on these ones will look pretty good in that kind of environment. Another one I was kind of thinking about in this area is Uncanny X-Men number 350. That was a cool one that came out in kind of the mid to late 90s. It's like, I believe it's like the trial of Gambit, but that one kind of fetches a solid buck in the 9.8. But we'll focus on Gambit #1 for this video. So there's 584 9.8s in a blue label for Gambit #1. 51.4%, the 9.8 ratio. So I saw one of these sell for $149.99. I think there's one on eBay right now for about $149.99. Maybe you're patient on this one, you wait in an auction, you kind of get it around that $125 level, I think might be doable, but not too many of these out there. I'm not seeing too many kind of auctions pop up on eBay for this one. There's also the gold edition. Consider that one. I didn't really look up any pricing information on that one in a 9.8, but if you're really serious about Gambit #1, consider that gold edition. So the Uncanny X-Men 350, which I mentioned there, I saw a completed sale for that one for $140.50. So you know what? Both of these kind of right around $150 right now. I think if Gambit comes out looking awesome in the MCU, this first solo titled Gambit comic book is probably like, you know, $325, $350 for, you know, a certain amount of time. And if he looks great in the movie, maybe there's a follow through on that. So I think these ones are pretty great values right now. And certainly if you're a Gambit fan, ones to consider. Absolutely. Okay, next one. I was able to pick up a raw copy recently. It's Ultimate Comics SpiderMan #20. So why #20 Ultimate Comics? So this is the first time Miles fights Venom. So the first Miles Morales versus Venom. Of note, the issue before this on 19, you kind of get Miles Morales on the cover with like the Venom tongue around his neck kind of thing. So you'd think they battle it out in that issue, but they don't. If you read that one, they don't really, they introduce Venom, but they don't kind of meet in that issue. Not until this issue where there's like a legit fight. So I think this one is just so under the radar. Really surprised. In the blue label, there's only 4 that are graded. There's 2 9.8s in the blue label. I'll kind of bring up a graphic so you can get a better look at the cover. Only 2 in the 9.8 though, so this is obviously one I kind of had to go the raw route so far. Got a nice raw copy. It was $12 US dollars. It was like 15 or 16 bucks Canadian. It was in a best offer, kind of the best looking one in Canada. I ended up buying on eBay. Got this one in about a week ago. So I'm buying this one, first Miles versus Venom. Yeah, 50% of them are 9.8s with the 2 9.8s on the census. So you know what? If like one of these two kind of popped up, you know, I'd probably be willing to pay around $175 to $200, even though this one's really undervalued. It's got this sort of black spine along the spine, the black color along the spine. I think that's going to show all the spine ticks on this one, so it's probably going to be a pretty tough one overall in a 9.8. And certainly there's room there, first, you know, Miles versus Venom battle for, I think, this one to be discovered by some people and to become, you know, more well collected. So I'm on the lookout in the raw for just a couple great looking, you know, near mint copies. I pretty much bought, there was only one that looked great in Canada. The others just got spine ticks on them. They're like obviously nowhere near mint. But an Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #20, if you're a Spider-Man fan, a Venom fan like I am, I think you want to keep an eye out for this one, and absolutely one that I'm buying right now. All right, moving on here. Check out a Batman #609 in a 9.8. Yeah, the first appearance of Hush. Tommy Elliott, I believe it is. First appearance of Hush. I think Hush is, you know, I'm reading a couple, you know, Batman books off and on, and noticing that Hush is in a lot of new Batman material, and he is a pretty solid villain. I think there's room there for, you know, Hush could do really well on like the big screen even, I think. And certainly there's a lot more upside if that happens, because I think Hush is an underground sort of Batman fans know him as a cool villain, but I don't think the mainstream Batman audience, wouldn't really put Hush with like a Penguin and Two-Face and Riddler. But there's some future potential there, I think, on this one. There's 731 9.8s in a blue label, 66.6%, the 9.8 ratio. And just around the price, like for this one, I think it's a decent one, certainly if you're a Batman fan too. Myself, I got the Hush storyline in a raw, what is it, 608 to 619, issue 608 to 619, 2 times over. Plus, I have another extra raw copy. So I have 3 raw copies of Batman 609, but I don't have it in a 9.8. 9.8 price is $185.50 in an auction. Another one sold in an auction for $214.99. So I think, especially under $200 if you're a Batman fan, I think Batman villains are really collectible. And, there's no real hero first appearances within Batman comics. It's just, you get Batman and Robin, and then there's all these villain appearances along the line. But I think, Batman villains are really collectible. And I actually think Hush is one of them that probably has a lot more potential than, there's quite a lot of Batman villains, admittedly. But Hush is up there with one that's still a little under the radar, but has that future potential. So Batman 608 in a 9.8, under $200, I think, is the price to aim for on that one. So next up, it's Star Wars Jedi Mace Windu, and this is a no-numbered comic book, but it's the first appearance of Asajj Ventress. And I know they had cast Sabine Wren, and Wren's a part of like the Rebels and the Clone Wars series, and Asajj Ventress is all throughout those cartoon series. So a good bet that maybe Asajj Ventress is going to show up in some like live action Star Wars content. That's a lot of Star Wars content coming out, certainly. So I do like this Star Wars Jedi Mace Windu. It's a Dark Horse comic book, so there's going to be a lot less printed of this one than like, say, a Canon number 6, which that's a great one too, but it's a Marvel comic, a newer one. There's a lot more in the 9.8. But I think there's some potential with this Jedi Mace Windu, with it having a big first appearance plus a little bit less printed. 167 9.8s out there. 167, that's not a lot at all, especially if Asajj Ventress kind of shows up. There's quite a few of these on eBay, though. You want to get this one at the right price. There's a lot of people trying to get kind of over fair value for this one, let's call it. 48.7%, the 9.8 ratio. A 1 of 167 is pretty great. So there's one on eBay right now in Canada. It's $687. I saw one sell, if you go back, for $799, but I'm pretty sure these have cooled down just a little bit. I would aim, be patient on this one. If you go on eBay right now, I think there's like 10 of them in a 9.8 up for sale, all admittedly around like $900, $1,000, how they, like to do that. Try to get top dollar. But I think right around 600, maybe even a little bit under 600 on like a Stealthy auction for this one right now. And then if Asajj Ventress comes out, this is a Dark Horse comic book. There's not a lot of supply. The price would do well in that environment. And like a more common one, consider Canon 6. Yeah, even though like Wren's been cast and like there's going to be some Star Wars content coming out, a lot of times I don't like to get in there on a hot comic book, but I have a feeling Canon The Last Padawan number 6, great cover, it's super collectible, and I think Wren could end up looking really cool on the big screen. So that's a bit of an easier one to find, and I think that one's around $500 to $600 in a 9.8 Canon 6, so they're about the same price. So some Star Wars 9.8s to consider there. Okay, last Stealthy 9.8 comic you should be buying. It's a Justice League Dark number 1. This one's from 2011. The kind of like, I guess it's the first official appearance of Justice League Dark. I do like the Swamp Thing number 50, which is kind of when John Constantine and Swamp Thing and Deadman, they all kind of work together. So that is kind of the first appearance for me. That's a 1980s book. But this is like the first solo titled book. Maybe it's the first official appearance, depending on who you talk to. But not too many of them out there. And, a Justice League Dark movie, I think, is more likely than, some people would think. And this one would do so well in that kind of environment. I think right now it's a good, cool one, like a cold-priced one to consider. 124 9.8s in a blue label. A 1 of 124. It's pretty great. Yeah, like pretty low supply for like if there was a Justice League Dark movie, like these would be so much more expensive with only 124 in the high-grade blue label. 31.3%, the 9.8 ratio. Decent 9.8 ratio, almost in the 20s. Lower the better with the 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, 31.3% of them are 9.8s. I saw Justice League Dark #1 sell for $219 recently. Yeah, occasionally, like, there's a lot of, you see this one kind of pop up and it's like $600 or best offer, but, you know, and it's just because there's only 124 of them out there, so people are trying to get top dollar for this one. But when one pops up on kind of a stealthy auction, I think right around $219 is a price to aim for. Maybe like a little closer to 200. I doubt you can get this one under 200 with, you know, it being a pretty great one with only 124 out there. So I think it's absolutely worth the one that I saw sell for a $219 in a 9.8. A Justice League Dark #1 is definitely one to consider if you're a Justice League Dark fan or a John Constantine fan. So a pretty cool stealthy one to yeah, consider for sure. All right, team. Thanks so much for watching. Yeah, wanted to get a good list of, yeah, obviously like some not so obvious key issues that still got some future potential though, I think. Yeah, I think this is a really solid list of, you know, some under the radar ones that aren't super expensive now, but I still see a pretty bright future for most of them, I think. All right, team. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. If you're liking my content, please subscribe and hit that bell, and I'll keep you updated on future videos.